WHO declares monkeypox surge global health emergency. At least 3 killed after Israel strikes South Lebanon. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Olivia Nicholas. The World Health Organization has declared the Mpox surge in Africa a global public health emergency, sounding its highest possible alarm over the worsening situation. Worried by the rise in cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the spread to nearby countries, the WHO hastily convened a meeting of experts to study the outbreak. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the emergency committee was of the view that the situation constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. It is the highest level of alarm under the international health regulations, which are legally binding on 196 countries.
The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of Mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported Mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. In addition to other outbreaks of other clades of Mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
The UN Health Agency's decision came the day after the African Union's health watchdog declared its own public health emergency over the growing outbreak. Tedros said the more than 14,000 cases and 524 deaths reported so far this year in Democratic Republic of Congo had already exceeded last year's total. Israeli strikes killed at least 3 people in southern Lebanon, with Hezbollah announcing 2 of its fighters were among the dead. It was the latest cross-border violence amid fears of a full-blown regional war. Hezbollah, an Iran-backed Hamas ally, has traded nearly daily fire with the Israeli army since the Israel-Hamas war escalated on the 7th of October. The Lebanese Health Ministry said in a statement that an Israeli strike on the southern town of Marjayon killed at least 2 people and wounded 4 others, noting the toll was provisional. The official national news agency said a drone targeted a car in the town square, a usually busy area home to shops. The health ministry also said at least 1 person was killed and another wounded in an Israeli strike in South Lebanon's Blida village. The violence since October last year has killed some 571 people in Lebanon, most of them Hezbollah fighters, but also including at least 118 civilians. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan told visiting Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ankara on Wednesday that Turkey will continue to support the cause of Palestinians and work for the international community to increase pressure on Israel. Erdogan's office said in a post on X that the 2 leaders discussed the recent developments and the steps to be taken for a lasting ceasefire and peace. President Erdogan said that Israel continues to massacre civilians, including babies in Gaza, displacing innocent Palestinians, shelling schools, hospitals and areas where civilians are sheltering, condemning people to hunger. The statement added that it is unacceptable some Western countries remain silent and continue to support Israel. Erdogan also told Abbas that all countries, especially the Muslim world, should step up their efforts to ensure an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the uninterrupted delivery of humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. Abbas is set to address Turkish Parliament's General Assembly in an extraordinary session on Thursday. Erdogan has been a fierce critic of Israel's offensive in Gaza, and tensions between Israel and Turkey have risen sharply since the start of the war in Gaza, in which more than 39,000 Palestinians have been killed. Two French pilots died after their Rafale jets collided in mid-air in eastern France in a rare accident involving the cutting-edge military aircraft. One pilot ejected following the crash over northeastern France, but authorities had launched a desperate search for a missing instructor and a student pilot on the second jet. President Emmanuel Macron said Captain Sebastian Mabire and Lieutenant Matthias Lorenz died in the air accident which occurred during a Rafale training mission. Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said one of the pilots was found safe and sound. It was not immediately clear what caused the collision that authorities said occurred over Colombe-les-Ballets, a town in northeastern France. The local prefecture said the military authorities will report on the causes of the accident. The supersonic Rafale multi-role fighter used to hunt enemy planes, strike ground and sea targets, carry out reconnaissance, and even carry France's nuclear warheads has become a bestseller for the French arms industry. Accidents involving Rafale jets are rare, and France has sold the Rafale to Egypt, India, Greece, Indonesia, Croatia, Qatar, as well as United Arab Emirates. President Vladimir Zelensky said Ukrainian troops had advanced well into Russia's Kursk region as Kyiv's biggest cross-border attack stretched into its second week. The Ukrainian army entered the Kursk region on the 6th of August, capturing dozens of settlements in the biggest offensive by a foreign army on Russian soil since World War II. Zelensky spoke of gains of 1 to 2 kilometers in different areas since the beginning of the day.
Нашу державу. Хороше є сьогодні просування в Курській області. Стратегічної мети нашої досягаємо. Суттєво поповнили обмінний фонд для нашої держави. Провів сьогодні.
The neighboring Russian region of Belgorod declared its own state of emergency as the governor warned the situation was extremely difficult due to Ukrainian shelling and drone attacks. Russia, meanwhile, said it had repelled Ukrainian attempts to push further into 5 areas of Kursk. Its defense ministry said the attempts by Ukrainian mobile units using armored equipment to break through deeper into Russian territory had been repelled. On a related note, Ukraine said its army would allow the evacuation of civilians from Russia's Kursk region into Russia and Ukraine and create a buffer zone in the area where its troops launched a major offensive. Interior Minister Igor Klemenko said the creation of a buffer zone in the Kursk region is a step to protect the border communities from daily hostile shelling. Klemenko made the announcement after a meeting with President Vladimir Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials. Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said Ukrainian military forces plan to open humanitarian corridors for the evacuation of civilians, both in the direction of Russia and Ukraine. She also said there were plans for humanitarian operations, including with the help of international organizations in the area. Ukrainian Rights Ombudsman Dmytro Lubinets said the Ukrainian officials had discussed access for representatives of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the UN, and other impartial international organizations to carry out humanitarian activities. Indonesia's new capital Nusantara is set to host the country's 79th Independence Day celebrations amid financial delays and fears over President Joko Widodo's beleaguered infrastructure project. Carved out of jungle on the tropical island of Borneo, the $32 billion project is located about 1,200 kilometers from the current capital, Jakarta. Jokowi, as the president is popularly known, has been rushing to complete as much of the new capital as possible before he steps down in October, despite Nusantara facing multiple construction delays, a lack of foreign investment, and managerial and land issues. Indonesia may be forced to delay plans to relocate a first batch of civil servants to its beleaguered new capital, potentially casting further doubts on a project that remains behind schedule. Though the government initially planned to relocate more than 10,000 civil servants to its future capital, Nusantara, in September, Jokowi acknowledged that this hinges on whether the project is ready. Preparing to hold Independence Day celebrations in Nusantara on Saturday, Jokowi has in recent months broken grounds on schools, office complexes and promised foreign investment. Women's accessories sold by some of the world's most popular online shopping firms contain toxic substances, sometimes hundreds of times above acceptable levels. In the most recent inspection, 144 products from Shein, AliExpress and Terima were tested, and multiple products from all companies failed to meet legal standards. Chinese giants including Shein, Terima and AliExpress have skyrocketed in global popularity in recent years, offering a vast selection of trendy clothes and accessories at stunningly low prices. The growth has led to increased scrutiny of their business practices and safety standards, including in the European Union and South Korea, where Seoul officials have been conducting weekly inspections of items sold by online platforms. Shoes from Shein were found to contain significantly high levels of phthalates, chemicals used to make plastics more flexible, with one pair 229 times above the legal limit. Formaldehyde, a chemical commonly used in home building products, was detected in Shein's caps at double the allowable threshold. Seoul authorities found sandals from Terima contained lead in the insoles at levels more than 11 times the permissible limit. According to a government statement, Seoul officials asked for all the products to be removed from sale. Coming up next, North Korea to reopen for international tourism after COVID. A New York judge declined for a third time to step aside from the case in which Donald Trump was convicted of charges involving hush money paid to an adult actress, dismissing the former United States president's claim of conflict of interest related to political consultancy work by the judge's daughter. As he did in April and in August 2023, Justice Juan Merchan, in a decision released on Wednesday, denied a request by Trump's lawyers that he recuse himself from the first case involving criminal charges against a former U.S. president. Merchan is scheduled to sentence Trump on 18th of September. Trump was found guilty by a jury on the 30th of May on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records for having covered up former personal lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen's payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to avert a sex scandal before the 2016 U.S. election. Falsifying business records is a crime punishable by up to 4 years in prison, though sentences such as fines or probation have been more common for others convicted of that crime. North Korea will reopen to foreign tourism after nearly 5 years of COVID-triggered closure. Beijing-based Koryo Tours said it had received confirmation from its local partner that tourism to Samjiyon and potentially the rest of the country will officially resume in December this year. Echoing the same information, KTG Tours, also based in China, said it had been told that tourists will be able to go to Samjiyon this winter. Samjiyon, near North Korea's mountainous northern border with China, is a gateway city to Mount Baekdu, where official narratives say the late Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il was born. His son and successor Kim Jong-un has poured huge resources into developing the area with the vast project including new apartments, hotels and a ski resort. North Korea sealed off its borders in early 2020 to protect itself from COVID-19, with even its own nationals prevented from entering for years. But signs of reopening began in the second half of last year, with the resumption of international flights allowing stranded nationals to finally return home. Before the pandemic, tourism to the north was limited, with tour companies saying around 5,000 Western tourists visited each year. The Taliban marked the third anniversary of their return to power after United States and NATO forces withdrew from Afghanistan with a military parade at Bagram Air Base on Wednesday. High-ranking Taliban officials were joined by representatives from China, Russia, Pakistan and Iran at the event held at what was once the largest US and NATO military base in Afghanistan. The parade featured the Taliban's armed forces showcasing a range of military equipment, including Humvees, helicopters and tanks. As the US troops departed in 2021, they destroyed more than 70 aircraft, dozens of armored vehicles and disabled air defenses. Having failed to anticipate the Taliban would prevail so quickly, Washington and its NATO allies were forced into hasty exit, leaving behind thousands of Afghans who helped them and may have qualified for evacuation and others who feel at risk. Since the Taliban's takeover, Afghanistan has plunged into economic crisis exacerbated by banking restrictions and the lack of formal recognition from foreign governments. The Taliban claims to have prioritized restoring security after 2 decades of conflict. Argentine prosecutors sought the indictment of former President Alberto Fernandez for injuries and threats alleged by his ex-partner Fabiola Yanes. Yanes last week filed a complaint accusing Fernandez of having beaten her during their relationship, which ended after he left office last year. Prosecutor Ramiro Gonzalez, in a letter submitted to court, asked for charges to be brought against the ex-president for minor and serious injuries as well as coercive threats. The scandal erupted when text messages detailing the alleged violence cropped up in a separate fraud investigation. Yanes' lawyer, Juan Pablo Fiorebello, said last week that messages detailing the alleged attacks with photographic evidence were found on the phone of Fernandez's private secretary, Maria Cantero. The phone was being analyzed as part of a probe into influence peddling during Fernandez's administration. After initially deciding not to press charges, Yanes later contacted the investigation judge and told him that she wanted to file a criminal complaint. Fernandez, who denies the accusation, has been forbidden from leaving the country amid the probe. The United Nations Security Council conducted a meeting to consider the political, economic and humanitarian situation in South Sudan ahead of December elections. The special representative of the Secretary General and head of the UN mission in South Sudan, Nicholas Haysom, described the humanitarian and economic outlook in the country as a perfect storm.
Humanitarian crisis founded on chronic, be that as it may, time is running out, and the costs of inaction at this juncture are too great. Should the elements of the perfect storm converge, it would stretch beyond the respective capacities of the United Nations and risk derailing the country's political transition.
He pointed to chronic food insecurity, political uncertainty, a rapidly deteriorating economy and potentially for once-in-a-lifetime flooding in September. Moreover, intercommunal violence, including killings and abductions, continues to impact the security situation. According to the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, more than 9 million people, or 76% of South Sudan's population, require humanitarian protection and assistance. The Brazilian Amazon has recorded more than 37,000 forest fires so far this year, the worst number in nearly 2 decades. The number was 111% higher than in the same period last year. Since the Brazil's National Institute for Space Research started collecting data in 1998, more fires were recorded in the same period only in 2005, 2004 and 2003. From the 1st of January to the 13th of August, a total of 37,835 fires were noted in the Brazilian Amazon this year. The Amazon suffered a historic drought between June and November last year, conducive to fires that have also affected the Pantanal, one of the world's largest tropical wetlands, which lies south of the rainforest. Last week, the World Weather Attribution said in a report that the hot, dry, windy conditions that fueled the Pantanal fires had been 40% more intense due to climate change. The latest data makes it more difficult news for the government of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, with the number of fires increasing even as deforestation in the Amazon is on the wane. Lula had pledged to put a stop to illegal deforestation of the Amazon by 2030. The practice had dramatically worsened under his far-right predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro. Greece has countered the cost of devastating fires outside Athens that claimed at least one life, forced thousands to flee their homes, and took 3 days to control. With the smoke still to clear, civil protection officials said the fire devoured 10,000 hectares, destroying about 100 homes as well as many other buildings and cars. The fire service said while isolated fires still burned, there were no major active blazes, but some 570 firefighters and 174 vehicles were monitoring events. The fire broke out on Sunday at Varnavas, near the historic town of Marathon, 40 kilometers northeast of Athens. Investigators believe a faulty electricity pole may have been the cause. Strong winds fed the flames, turning them into the worst wildfire this year in Greece. With thousands of people forced to flee their homes, several stadiums were opened up to receive them. According to the Civil Protection Ministry, some 650 people were hosted in hotels. The government earmarked 4.7 million euros for the 8 towns hit by the fires, with payouts for households and individuals affected by the disaster. Still to come in sports, Mbappe debut goal secures Super Cup win for Real Madrid. Brazilian Olympic medalists on Wednesday received a triumphant welcome back in their home club, Flamengo, after their awarded performances in Paris. Gymnast Rebeca Andrade, the most decorated Olympic athlete in Brazil, received an ovation after earning a gold medal in the floor final, silver in the vault and the individual all-round, and bronze in the women's team competition with Flavia Saraiva and Lorraine Oliveira, who also took part in the event. Other members of the Flamengo club who were also honored were cornist Ezequiel Queiroz, who silver at men's canoe single 1,000 meters. Judoka Rafaela Silva, who took bronze at teams competition, was also greeted. Brazil was the Latin American country winning the most medals in the Paris Olympics, earning 20 in total. 3 of them were gold, 7 silver and 10 bronzes. The country had in recent decades bumped up its budget for the Olympics, which also translated into an increase in the medal tally. However, the question remains as to how public and private funding for Olympic athletes will look after Paris 2024. Hundreds of supporters gathered along Manila's main avenue on Wednesday to cheer for Carlos Yulo after the Filipino gymnast won 2 gold medals in the Paris Olympics. Crowds gathered along the sidewalk carrying Philippine flags as they chanted Yulo's name as his convoy with other Filipino athletes passed by. The celebration included a nationally televised tribute by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The Southeast Asian country won 2 gold and 2 bronze medals at the Paris Olympics. Yulo 24 is celebrated as the most accomplished Filipino gymnast in history. He is the first Filipino athlete to win 2 consecutive Olympic gold medals and historically the second to win a gold medal after weightlifter Hidlin Diaz at the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics. Yulo's twin gold medals in gymnastics has earned him various cash incentives from the government worth at least 20 million pesos and corporate sponsorship, including a lavish condominium, lifetime buffet meals and free flights, among others. Euphoria over Yulo's wins has provided a respite for a nation long ridden with poverty, deep divisions and conflicts. France striker Kylian Mbappe marked his Real Madrid debut with a clinical goal as the European champions outclassed Atalanta 2-0 to win the Super Cup on Wednesday. Real clinched a record 6th Super Cup crown to move ahead of Barcelona and AC Milan, who have each won the annual match between the Champions League and Europa League winners 5 times. Mbappe, who joined Real in June from Paris Saint-Germain, could have opened the scoring in the 15th minute, but his first-time attempt was blocked by the Atalanta defence. Real broke the deadlock when Valverde converted a precise pass from Vinicius. Bellingham later set up Mbappe for Real's second, cutting the ball back for the Frenchman to provide a neat finish. The 25-year-old, who won 7 Ligue 1 titles with PSG and Monaco but had never previously won a European club competition, was substituted 7 minutes from time. Real kick off their La Liga season on Sunday against Copa del Rey finalist Mallorca. Atalanta travelled to Lecce for the Serie A season opener on Monday. Munir Nasraoui, the father of Barcelona and Spain star winger Lamine Yamal, was stabbed late on Wednesday at a parking lot in the northwest-eastern Spanish town of Mataró, in a report by La Vanguardia, the newspaper, citing official sources familiar with the matter. The regional Mossos Esquadra police force and a spokesperson for the Mataró local government did not immediately respond to requests for comment. According to La Vanguardia report, Nasraoui was taken to the Can Ruti hospital in the nearby city of Badalona and his diagnosis was serious. It added that local and regional police had located several witnesses for the incident. However, a later report by sports website Relevo, also citing official sources, said Nasraoui had been released from hospital and was back at his home. Yamal, a football wonderkid who grew up in coastal Mataró, a working-class, multi-ethnic suburb of Barcelona, became the breakout star of the recent Euro 2024 held in Germany. Spain won the tournament, helped in part by the 17-year-old scoring against France in the semi-final on the 9th of July. That wraps up today's edition of World Today. In our top story, WHO declares a monkeypox surge global health emergency. Join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on Saluran Berita RTM and TV1 for more news updates. You can also stream us online through RTM Click app. Till then, I'm Olivia Nicholas, Malaysia Madani, Jiwa Merdeka. Goodbye for now.